Let's just look at the things that he has done in the past. And this really kind of stems from Libya. And let's look at his batting average. What is the president's batting average overseas? Is it pretty good? Is it kind of not so good? Is it abysmal? I can't tell you. I don't think I've ever seen any president with this bad of a batting average. Have you? Have you ever seen it? Can anybody name one foreign policy that has been good for the United States of America? One thing that he has done besides killing Osama bin Laden. Can you name one thing that he has done that has ended up being good for us?
There was an Osama bin Laden thing. Remember the
the Osama bin Laden thing. But now this goes to let's start with Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden, if you remember the stories, it took him 6 months to make the decision on whether or not to go in and get him. And then that night before they said go in and get him, he said, I have to sleep on it. And then he has positioned this as the toughest decision any president has ever made.
Gutsy call.
This is the easiest decision any president has ever made. This is simple. You're going to go get enemy number one? Yes. I could say that in my sleep. I could say that in the middle of breakfast. I could say that with a hamburger in my mouth. You could knock on our door at an intimate moment and say, excuse me, sir, I really hate to interrupt, but should we kill Osama bin Laden? Yes. Now leave us alone, please. I got that one down.
If there's ever
yes.
If there's ever a second of doubt about that answer, then he shouldn't be enemy number one.
Right.
That's what enemy number one means. It's your number one priority.
So let's take the things that he has done and separate them into two categories. The first category is the things that he has rushed to help on without having all the facts. Without having any of the facts, he rushes to help. The first one that comes to mind is his friend in Boston. Remember that? I have a friend in Boston who has just had some problems, and I don't have any of the information, but the cops acted stupidly. Did the cops act stupidly? His instinct, his gut is the cops are bad. The justice system is bad. That's his gut instinct, his first reaction, his shoot from the hip and aim later. And he was wrong about that. But that shows you something about his gut instinct. It's wrong. Same thing, let's go with Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin, the same thing. He shoots from the hip. And his reaction, his gut reaction is, the police are wrong. The justice system has no justice in it. It's a racist state, right? When he rushes to help, all of us said, why is the president getting involved in this? He shouldn't be involved in this. We don't even know the facts. He rushes to help. In Egypt, the Arab Spring, he rushes in to help. He makes all kinds of statements. He helps them every way he possibly can. He supports the Muslim Brotherhood. He sends people to the Congress to say, Clapper, to say, the Muslim Brotherhood, they're not bad. This is good. His rush to help. His rush to help Libya. Remember, responsibility to protect. Now, we haven't rushed to help the slaughter that's going on in Syria. That's been going on for almost 2 years. But we had to rush into Libya. Has that been a good thing or a bad thing? Why did we rush into Libya? To make us safer. But we're not safer. Are you safer than you were 4 years ago? I don't know. Why don't to paraphrase John Kerry, why don't you ask Ambassador Stevens if he feels safer today than he was 4 years ago? Libya, the safe house attack. He rushes in to say what happened without any of the facts. I contend, and now the State Department has proven, that he did have the facts. But what did he do? He chastises Romney for saying it's a terrorist attack. And what does he do? He rushes in and says, it's the video. It's free speech in America that has caused this. He rushes in every time that it helps our enemies, or it causes division, or it is America is an unjust place, or we're a colonialist power, or we oppress. He rushes in. Now, let's look at the other. Where has he waited for the facts? Let's not rush in. As president of the United States, you can't rush in. Wait a minute. You did with Trayvon. You did with the cops who are acting stupidly. You did with the Arab Spring. You did with Libya. I mean, you rush in, Mr. President. Well, as president, you can't rush in. I've got to wait for facts. Now, let me ask you as we go through this to check your gut. Check your gut. Fort Hood. If you remember right, he didn't rush into that. He said immediately, in fact, not even immediately, hours after the shooting, we didn't get anything. Do you remember how long we waited? We waited until like 5 o'clock that afternoon. And we wondered, where's the president on this? We've had a terrorist shooting at Fort Hood. Allah Akbar was heard shouted by the killer. Where's the president? The president was at the Indian reservation. And he gives a shout out. Remember, if you remember right, he comes up to the microphone. And before he says anything, he casually says this.
I hear that Dr. Joe Medicine Crow was around, and so I want to give a shout out to that Congressional Medal of Honor winner.
I've never heard a president do that. We have a terrorist activity on our own soil. We have soldiers that are killed, and he gives a shout out. I've never heard that. But beyond that, in that speech, he says we have to wait for all of the facts. Now, what does your gut tell you? What does your gut tell you? I have no problem with the president saying we have to wait for facts. I don't want the president to do what he did in Trayvon Martin. I have no problem. Wait for facts. But he waited hours before he gave this speech, and then he made us wait like 5 minutes in the speech before he got to this. But then he said, let's wait for the facts. What did he do? The facts came back out that it was a workplace shooting. No, it wasn't. It was a terrorist attack. Allah Akbar should be your first tip. So who did that help? Did that help our enemies, or did that help the United States of America? And what did your gut tell you? Were you right, or is the president right? The Christmas underwear bombing, do you remember that? He was nowhere to be found on the underwear bombing. I don't even think he made a statement on that for a week? Nowhere to be found on that. The Iranian uprising. Do you remember when the people took to the streets? Now remember, he rushes in to help the Muslim Brotherhood. But where is he on the Iranian situation? He was nowhere to be found. He didn't support the people of Iran rising up against our greatest enemy now in the Middle East, Iran. He doesn't help them. He doesn't support them. He doesn't give a speech. He gives nothing. We've got to wait for the facts. Killing Osama bin Laden, he did it, but it took him 6 months, and then he campaigns on it was the toughest decision any man has ever made. The BP oil spill. If you remember right, we have a huge oil spill, and he does nothing. He doesn't send anyone in. Why? How's that possible? He doesn't help at all. It takes him forever to get there. It takes him forever to help. Why? Who did that help? Did that help the United States of America? Or by letting that thing sit, did it make the situation worse and allow him to close everything down and then give all of that equipment and all of those deep sea leases and give money to Brazil to have them do deep sea research and drilling? Iran versus Israel. Let's wait. As Benjamin Netanyahu says, for what? For what? What are we waiting for? Well, we've got to wait for more facts. We got to wait for this. We got to wait for that. He's not rushing in. And now, Egypt and Libya. We have to wait for the facts. We had another person at our embassy, and this time in Yemen, killed. We have yet another embassy personnel member killed in the Middle East. How many have to die before he realizes the United States has got to act? The United States has to send a clear message. You don't kill our ambassadors. You don't kill the people at our embassies. But let's wait. Okay. So here's the question that I want you to pose to your friends. If this guy, if you just say his policy is abysmal, and you don't subscribe this to anything other than he's just got a bad gut, this president and his gut is so wrong, it is a danger to the United States of America and to the entire free world. Now, I can't imagine anyone having this kind of track record and it being honest mistakes. There's no way. You've got enough people, advisors around you that know the world that you would say, Mr. President, no, stop. The president has said that he is very happy and proud of his record. So if it is just a series of mistakes, this guy doesn't think he's making any mistakes. He thinks he's fine. Do you remember when they couldn't get George Bush to admit any problems, any mistakes? Could we have that question asked to this president? Have you made any mistakes? You know what his mistakes, he says? He hasn't told the story well enough. He hasn't been able to convince the American people that he's right. He doesn't think he's made any mistakes. He thinks you are making the mistakes. The buck stops with you. You are not smart enough to see what he sees. I got news for you. Arrogance will be everyone's undoing. Arrogance. The guy is arrogant and mistake-riddled when it comes to our foreign policy. But I don't happen to believe that he's making mistakes. Because if you look at everything this man has done, he is empowering everybody who hates the United States of America. He's empowering the Black Panthers. He's empowering the people like the Weather Underground. He's empowering people that think that we're a colonialist country. He's empowering the people that think we're the great Satan. He's empowering Al-Qaeda. He's empowering the Muslim Brotherhood. He's empowering all of them and giving them hope and aid and comfort, literal comfort and aid. He's giving Egypt aid. It's the Muslim Brotherhood. Aid and comfort. And he's comforting them. What was the response of the embassy in Egypt when they took our embassy? They gave the guys who took the embassy comfort. Isn't that treason? You give the enemy aid and comfort? This guy, and this is why our State Department is coming out and warning us. This is why the Pentagon is coming out and trying to get any member of the press to actually ring the alarm bell. Nobody's going to ring it. We're ringing it on radio. We're ringing it on television. There are a few hosts and a few shows that are doing it. We as a network, The Blaze, we're trying to ring it as hard as we can. But it's really in your hands. If you have been involved in the last 5 years at all, if you have been saying, the country is in trouble and we've got to fix things, and you were out and you made a sign, you went to a tea party, any of that stuff. If you are not actively engaged with every fiber of your being right now, ask yourself, why? Are you tired? Have you been beat up? Have you been convinced that we can't win? Why? This is the moment of history. This is the moment of choosing This is the moment you have waited for. With everything you have, with every resource, every talent, with every second of every day, this is the moment. Not to vote is to vote.